Josh Loeser, thanks for coming in. The season is starting this weekend. It can't start any better always. The Rocky Mountain Open, Stanford, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Air Force. What are you expecting this weekend?
It's going to be different. Just everybody's being hit with COVID right now, so there are some teams that are going to be short a full squad, ours included. But some of the guys that are competing, that are going to be competing, they should be pretty good. Especially teams like Oklahoma, Stanford. I mean, Nebraska's they're getting pretty good. And then our guys, we've got guys on our team that should be pretty good this weekend. Uh, we're not going to be at full strength, obviously. Neither any of the other teams really, because of this. Just hitting like the last 2 weeks has really affected almost every team in the country. But we're still going to have the competition. It should still be pretty exciting. We anticipate a lot of fans because it's in conjunction with the Junior Rocky Mountain Open. So, yeah, it should still be an exciting meet. It just won't be full strength for everybody.
Does it, though, somehow maybe make your team a little bit better because some of those gymnasts will be able to do their thing when maybe they would have been on the sidelines if someone else was healthy?
I think it gives us a chance to see guys that we typically probably wouldn't have in the lineup. It gives them a chance to actually show us what they can do when they raise their hand. Some of them have never gotten to compete since they've been here, so I think it'll be cool for some of them to get a chance to compete, and mainly for us to see how they respond to competition. It's always good to see that. I mean, we might have guys that go out there that have never competed before, do really great, and we'll be like, oh, maybe you need to be in the lineup more often. But then again, we might have guys go out there and just freeze up, and we'll say, this is why you've never been in the lineup. So we'll see.
There are some game performers, though. I mean,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
people who don't necessarily always practice very well, but man, they get in there in the meet and they do well.
There are definitely those guys. I mean, there are guys in our lineup that compete consistently that when we get to a competition, they do way better than they do in practice. It's kind of irritating as a coach because you're like, look, if you performed like this in practice every day, imagine where you would be in competition. But adrenaline's a hard thing to mimic. So, yeah, it's that's the one thing about competition. A lot of like you always hear, oh, you gotta practice like you compete, practice like you compete. I just feel like adrenaline adds so much to the equation. It's hard to mimic that. I would almost rather have them compete like they practice so they can get to where they can like calm down in a competition so that they can treat a competition the way they practice. I think that's a better approach as opposed to try to treat practice like the competition. I just think it's hard to mimic. So
It's hard to talk about your team. I don't really want to get into the dynamics of your team when some of your individuals won't be performing. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, so to speak. How hard is it making it for you and other gymnastics coaches to do their jobs when you have a guy one day and the next day you don't have him for 5 to 10 days?
so and I'm sure every sport has to deal with things like that. Our sport's a little bit different. If we have a guy that's in the gym for a week and then the week of the competition he's out 3 or 4 days before he competes, our sport is dangerous enough that we just say, no, you're not competing. And it changes lineup big time, especially when we've got a guy that's an all-arounder, like two of our sophomores, and we have one freshman. All three of them are all-arounders. We're planning on using those guys on every event for this competition. Having one of those guys out for the meet, I mean, that hurts us because then we got to find somebody that can fill in on 6 spots throughout the competition. It hurts us quite a bit, but we'll deal with it. I think that's all you can do. So
Yeah, exactly. But psychologically, I mean, there's one thing to say, okay, now I got to move some people around. But psychologically, as a coach and as your team, how do you keep their heads up when things are out of their control?
what we've been telling our guys is so we have to have so many competitions a year to qualify to NCAA's as a team. Um, of those competitions, we only count like 4 scores for our average, and one of those has to be conference. So we still have 8 well, 7 more competitions to get 3 more scores from. And just the fact that this has affected every team in the country, trying to be we've been telling our guys, hey, look, it's one competition. We still got 7 more to get scores from. Treat this as like a warm up competition for the rest of the year. I mean, we're really aiming for them to be back 100% and hitting 80 to 90% just routine wise by February anyway. I mean, that's always the goal. That's typically the way we approach season anyway. This kind of just threw a wrench into the first 2 competitions, but by February, I think they're going to be back to where they need to be, and we should be full strength. We shouldn't have to deal with this the rest of the year because our entire team has gotten it. So, yeah, I think as long as they don't get overly stressed out about the first competition or two, the rest of the season is going to be great. So we just try to keep them like forward thinking, and most of them are responding pretty well to that. So
Good to hear. Josh Loeser, thanks for taking the time. Good luck this weekend.
thank you very much.